Everybody, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and welcome to the show that I pull together every year, 5 episodes over 5 days called Spring Into Action. It's all about getting information out of the smartest minds I know that can help you launching into what is quite possibly the most important season of business across the board, not only real estate. Everyone talks about spring being so very important for real estate. And this year in particular, I think that it is. But the tips we're going to give you over the Spring Into Action series will help you in all areas of business. And today, I've got a guy who I know is going to blow your socks off, not only because I host a podcast with him and I have to put up with him almost every week, but also because I know that he is New Zealand's #1 salesperson. He's also New Zealand's #1 keynote speaker, the one and only Darren Pratley, coming up after this. There you go, Darren Pratley. Welcome to Spring Into Action.
How are you, mate?
I'm very good. Very good. Gee, you have
right ready to spring into action, mate. What a great topic. Sounds good.
Yeah, I did. I started doing this in COVID, and then this year I was like, oh, do I do it? Don't I do it? But I always get such a good reaction from it. It seems to be timely. It's that push into Christmas where it's like, if you push now, you're not going to have to feel sick in the guts in January or February. There are still decisions being made. It's really easy to just sort of slide sluggishly into November, and then all of a sudden it's Christmas before you know it, and then you're trapped.
Yep.
So I'm like, no, let's give people the pump up that they need. Let's give them the information or some new thinking that they can take with them right now. Turn their turbos on and get them pumping into Christmas and get some dollars in the bank, and have a great relaxing Christmas. That's really what it's about.
Yeah, definitely. And I think right now, in New Zealand here, we're going through the process of a general election. So we're all in the thick of all of the conversations about what we want for the future and what the future looks like, and depending on who you're going to vote for, what you're going to get. So that's created quite a bit of distraction, but it's also got people thinking a bit more about themselves, actually a little bit more in terms of their lives and where they're at and what the future could look like. So I think this is a really great thing to be doing right now, because I think this is the perfect time of the year to set ourselves up for a big Christmas.
So in New Zealand, what's the mood? Are you going to a federal election? So it's obviously a lot of self-reflection and decision-making around the direction of things. Jacinta's gone. You've had natural disasters on top of COVID, probably more than most.
Yep.
You've been bashed around the ears a bit.
Yeah, so we've had it tough, and I can certainly sense that in the business environment, and you sort of think about the COVID environment and the levels and the depths that we sort of locked up the country and pumped a lot of cash into the country to be able to keep it running during that COVID period, and then coming out of COVID, we then ended up with a number of pretty major disasters around the country that again required some quite big spending. So from all that money washing around, we started to see big problems with our inflationary numbers. And all of a sudden, the Reserve Bank of New Zealand then starts to lift interest rates. So we've got a lot of people who are carrying a lot of debt that all of a sudden have big hikes in interest rates. So it's been a really challenging time. And then all of a sudden, someone lumps on top of that, we've got a general election as well. So now all of a sudden, you're getting everybody to start to reflect a bit more about, hey, where have we been, but where do we want to go from here? And I think that's where New Zealanders are starting to get a little bit frustrated with the position we're in right now, and probably needing a little bit of vision and a horizon to where we should go.
Yeah, so it sounds like a similar pathway to Australia. Maybe you don't have the natural resources to dig up that we do to get ourselves out of trouble all the time, or the population base. So for the industries you're dealing with, they're getting a little bit frustrated of where they've been found, but have they got the Anzac fighting spirit that we know to get out the other side, or are they suffering a little bit like we are over here, where they're still a little bit sluggish, or they've almost got disaster fatigue or fight back fatigue?
I think we're definitely in a struggling place, right? I think one of the big things that I've noticed is just the people's really in a drive to get themselves out of where they are is actually been really tested because of all these events. And we're talking about 3 or 4 years, in some cases 5 years we've been going down this path. We're in a situation right now where a lot of people have sort of forgotten how to get out of it and forgotten what that fighting spirit looks like. Well, we had someone the other day was talking on the radio about in New Zealand, we've got this philosophy of a number 8 wire. A Kiwi can fix pretty much anything with a piece of number 8 wire and some sticky tape, whatever it is, we'll fix it. Well, we've really lost that at the moment. We seem to have fallen into this trap where we're waiting for somebody else to come along with a piece of number 8 wire and some sticky tape and then be able to fix it for us. And I'm seeing a lot of businesses that are sort of getting trapped into that psyche a wee bit. So it's a challenging time. It's not easy, and I certainly know it's not easy. But there's some really key things that you've got to be doing to really move yourself forward and get yourself out of this. So yeah, I think this is a really great vehicle to get that message out there and get people thinking about what they really need to be doing.
So, Darren, let's because this is a bit of a chat show. This is share your knowledge while also getting to know who you are. Tell us the Darren Pratley story. Like, you don't have to go all the way back and give us all the girlfriends you've had in your life, but just give us in a nutshell, how did you end up where you are? You're an acclaimed sales trainer across real estate, cars, boats, finance. You used to work in the finance, mortgage, refinancing space. And you're also, last year, I think it was, or the year before, crowned New Zealand's #1 speaker.
Yeah.
Good job.
So,
congratulations.
yeah, thanks, mate. It was really, it's been a lot of work and it's been a lot of yards to get us down this path. But, I look back and sort of go, going through university and ended up with a property degree. So I'm very property, real estate focused, but came out of that and entered into the financial services industry. So spent 25 years in financial services, primarily working with real estate. So real estate agents, real estate officers. So I know that space extremely well. And then ended up for 4 years being the chairman of the financial services industry right at the time the government decided to regulate financial services. So even regulated industries or regulated businesses, I'm very comfortable in the space to see how the regulators change the industries. And then 6 years ago, I made the decision that I'd done everything in financial services you possibly can, and that I needed a new challenge. So decided that speaking, training, and mentoring and working with businesses in the role I do now, and it's been fantastic. So yeah, I've got a great client base. I get a lot of work all around New Zealand. So I'm flying, every second or third day somewhere in New Zealand, and now lucky enough to be heading across the ditch a bit more as well. So yeah, very excited. I mean, it's been a great journey, but also being, someone said to me the other day, it feels like every time, Darren, you get into a situation, you're in a business conversation, that it's like you've done it before. And I must admit, I'm starting to get a little bit feeling like that, when you see these business changes or you see the business environment or you see a slowdown, you sort of go, well, I've done this before. I've done this a couple of times before in a market like this. So it's just using the experience that you've got and then being able to build a plan and a framework to help businesses out of it.
You said you fly around New Zealand a lot. How do they keep the in-flight entertainment to 15 minutes? Because you'll be up and then down, and that'll be it, right?
Oh, there's a few. Yeah, when you're going across,
got Danger Mouse episodes on repeat or something, have you?
It takes an hour to get to Christchurch.
Just Bluey episodes of Bluey, up and down, 15 minutes each, nice and sweet.
Well, I'm too busy on podcasts, mate, and research and all that sort of stuff. I haven't got time for.
Very good. Very good. So coming into this spring, obviously a lot of disruption. You got a bit of a weirder situation over there, because I find this all the time. And look, we've got the voice referendum coming, and I can see the same patterns that I think you're alluding to over here that you're seeing over there, and that is an excuse not to take action. And they see federal election, excuse not to take action in case something dramatic changes with the party that's elected. And in Australia, it's excuse not to take action in case the voice referendum changes something about my business that I can't do. Neither is going to happen, but
no.
Yes.
And I think this is the piece where at the moment, there's this level of apathy that we've got at the moment, and apathy is not quite the right word, but it's more inaction, because we get this feeling, and I noticed this during COVID, and I think you did too, is there were a lot of businesses and a lot of people that kind of looked for the government or the state to make decisions for them based on the circumstances that we had. So all of a sudden we have got this environment where people are used to other people making the decision, or the other people setting the course, or the other people making recommendations about whether you're open or you're closed or whatever you need to be doing. And I just kind of feel like at the moment we've fallen into the space where we're kind of waiting for somebody else to make a decision for us. And that's where lately I've been doing a lot of work with a lot of businesses, just getting them to go, actually, we just need to get back and have a good think about what our vision is for our business and where our projection looking forward takes us, and actually make sure we've got a better plan about actually what does that look like and how do I get there, rather than getting stuck in this no man's land. And I think that's a real challenging spot right now.
I think that's a really interesting term that you use, apathy, because I think that is really close to what's happening, but it's sort of tied in with a bit of timidness, but
Yep.
it's also tied in with a bit of, if I sit back here and do nothing and don't make the decisions and let someone else do it, then I can't be blamed
Yes.
for
Yes.
whatever comes next. I'm just going to, and it's like I see it all the time. I see these brilliant people, brilliantly successful people who have
Yes.
hit headwinds recently, and now they're going off into jobs that are almost don't
Safe.
require them to make any decisions of significance.
Safe. And this is, and nobody in business ever said to us, no one in business ever said that the place where success hides is in plain sight, right? You've actually got to go looking for it. You've got to hunt for it, and you've got to be prepared to go to places maybe and sometimes where other people are not going. And this is the bit where I'm seeing at the moment is we just don't have that real drive to get us to go to places where the success is hiding at the moment, because I think it is. It's not in plain sight. It's not easy to grab. You've actually got to go and either make it or hunt it or find it. And I'm just seeing at the moment a lot of businesses have lost their ability to hunt success, and I think sometimes we need to be reminded of that.
I think Dana White, the head of the UFC, said it the other day. He said something along the lines of, in this current business environment, if you are remotely a savage, you are gonna just excel.
Mm.
He's
Yeah,
sensing it too.
yeah, it's
So
there everywhere.
so it is amazing, particularly sort of in real, and you see it in real estate. I see it in real estate because a lot of those guys and girls in real estate, particularly in sales, they're almost running their own businesses inside a business.
Well,
And
well, well. Actually, they are running a business within the
yeah,
business. It's not sort of; it is, and that's the piece where I think a lot of them get caught with this idea that they are, waiting for the owner of the business to give them an opportunity, or waiting for the neighbor down the road to sell their house eventually. And it's like you've actually got to build your strength around your business and in better ways than just hoping and waiting that someone's going to deliver it. You've actually got to go and make it. And I think we've, with the climate, the business climate we've had over the last 4 or 5 years, it's really dragged us into a space of accepting what we're getting rather than going to make what we need.
and on that point, what do they need to do? Where does it begin? How do they change? And this is, I mean, I'm a big believer in that habits are your biggest handicap. If you get stuck into bad habits, they're actually really hard to break.
Yeah.
You just can't address your self-talk and change it. It's actually a lot deeper than that. It's stuff that goes on in your subconscious while you're asleep and sets you up for the next day. There's a whole lot of different things. What can people do to start? Like, if this spring they watch this episode of Spring into Action and they say, right, I'm drawing a line in the sand. What do they do starting that moment?
3 things. First thing is get really serious about you as a person, because my belief is that unless you've got good clarity of knowing exactly who you are, where you're at, and where you're going, no matter what you're doing in your business, it's never going to work because it doesn't align with who you are or what you're wanting to do. So one of the things that I get people to do is to go, right, how is your health? How are you around your time management? Where are you when it comes to your skill set at doing your job? How good are you actually at it? Do you have a clear plan on where you want to go? Are you earning enough money? And have you got a plan for your retirement? Personally, before I get into any of the business side, because once you get some clear pictures on those kinds of topics right up front, then you start to really understand why you're in this industry and why you're doing what you're doing. Because unless you've got that clarity, business plan or business activity and all of that will never actually really drive you to where you want to go unless you've got those personal plans locked in place and get good clarity about what is actually driving you.
Number two?
Number two is to get real clarity about where you want your business to go. So have a clear vision of what you want to see your business to look like in 5 years and 10 years. And the reason why I go 5 and 10 years out is because it starts to get you to be able to dream bigger. And, you know, I see some so talented people in some of these industries, but their view of where they can go is actually really small. And sometimes I'll go into business environments and go, you're one of the most talented people that I've seen. But I want you to dream way bigger than you're thinking now. So get a plan of that longer term vision of where you could go, and then start coming back to going, okay, so what is the vision look like for your business today? Where are we going to take it? Because once you personally have got some good clarity about what you're doing, your business has got good clarity about where it's going. Now we can really get stuck into defining the activity and the actual day-to-day structures to be able to build that success.
Yeah, right. I think clarity is so underrated. I think it's the biggest hurdle of all time.
But it's clarity of the future vision, right? It's clarity of where do I want to go? Why am I going to go there? It doesn't have to be tangible right here and now. It's the clarity of where do you want it to be in 5 years or 10 years time. And if you're living day by day right now and you don't have that longer term vision, you'll make a decision whether you stay in the industry today rather than staying in it for 5 or 10 years. So as soon as you get a tough time like now, some people who are living in their business day to day might make a decision tomorrow to pull the pin and it's all too hard. But if you've got that 5-year plan or 10-year plan, it makes it way easier to get a clarity of where you need to go.
Seeing a lot of small boutique businesses that have been riding high on the socials.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden they've disappeared and you're like, hey, what happened? Where did you go? Like,
100%.
the market's no longer driving their activity. They were being asked to do it. And
100%.
I think, this is, we get back to the points you made about clarity. I just don't think they're really clear about where they were and what was actually driving the business in their business.
And you think about it, if you're not clear as a business about where you're going, why you're here, what service or product you provide, guess what? The customer ain't going to work it out. So the biggest part for me here is just to get a really clear plan of exactly what that looks like and make sure you've got really good understanding that you're going, hey, I know where this business is going to go. I know I'm going to be here to look after my clients in the long term. I know I'm going to be able to support them in whatever product or service they need in the future. It just changes your conversation massively.
Yeah. And then I suppose once you've got that clarity of where you want to go, you've got to have a written plan, not a pretend plan. And then the second one, you've got to have a business plan. Map it out, set targets, small goals, medium goals, long-term goals.
This is one of the biggest things that I say is once you've got that clarity of vision, get it on paper, get it written down, get a clear plan. And it may only be one A4 piece of paper. I'll say to people, look, let's just get one piece of paper sorted. Just get it laminated. Let's put it up in front of you. Make sure you get a copy in the car. Make sure you get a copy at home and at your desk. Get really clear on where you want to take this business. Because once you've got that plan written down, it's much more likely that it's going to happen. Do you want to know the one that also I say to this? If you say to somebody, where's your plan? And they go, oh, I don't need it, Jonathan. It's in here. It's in here. And I go, the only reason it's in there is because you can change it that quick.
Yep, when it suits you.
Exactly. And you know what? When you're self-employed, I can pretty much guarantee you 497 excuses why that plan hasn't happened. Not one of them will be your fault. Because what we do is we don't want to take responsibility for that. We'll just push it off and say it's the market, it's the client, it's the business, it's the company, we're not getting the support. All of that stuff becomes, all about blaming other people. In fact, the one-page A4 plan, if we actually follow that, the chances are we actually will be successful and we will start to achieve the business that we said that we were going to right at the start of this process.
Jeez, mate, I reckon we should do a podcast. Oh, wait, hold on a minute. If anyone thinks that that's somewhat familiar, Darren and I do a podcast. I'm not going to pretend to not know each other here. But that was one of our most popular episodes, the business plan one, which was such a simple concept, but just amazing what people were saying on the back of that episode about how they're just making it up on the run. And I'm guilty of it. I think I've spent 5 or 6 years trying to work out what viable as a business is, and sort of fell into training and coaching and speaking, where the plans originally were something completely different. But now that it's written down, you're right. I'm not having those conversations of, this is a bit hard this month, I might tap out and go get a job between now and Christmas.
That's it.
That actually happened. You and I had that conversation. So I'm glad you raised that, because these are real life scenarios we're dealing with here. We're not painting an idyllic world of the businesses that we're in. And just because we're making a show for Facebook doesn't mean that our businesses are either perfect or perfect for you. We're just trying to give you ideas or concepts that you can use to maybe get yourself back on track, get yourself back up and running, leading in to what will be 2024 pretty soon. Now, the third point, because you said 2, we hit 2. Have you remembered the third one, or did we move on too far?
No.
Good.
Once we've got a clear plan, what you're going to do then is work out the activity.
Yeah.
Okay. So once we've got the plan of what you want to achieve, now you have to break it down into the activities. So to be achieving the result that you've got written down there, what is the level of activity that you, not anybody else, you need to complete to generate the result? And that's the piece for me, is once I get people to start then nutting out the activity and then transferring that into their diary and make time allocation for the tasks that generate you the result, oh my goodness, you should see the change that happens, right? Because all of a sudden you are focused on doing the tasks that generate you the revenue, right? And sometimes you can go, actually, today, my number one task is to be able to pitch or present for this piece of work. Everything has got my focus on that, but by getting it across the line, that may end up being a massive opportunity for you for the future. So what you do is you allocate the appropriate time for that particular task. So yeah, I just look at it and go, when it comes to building that activity plan, I ask most self-employed contractors to go, actually just analyze your last 2 weeks. Just go through your calendar over the last 2 weeks, see what you actually did, and then look in your calendar and tell me how much white space there is. And what I mean by that is how much unallocated time in your diary is between the appointments or the meetings that you've got, because that's the time that I'm talking about. I know you're going to have meetings and appointments, but how have you allocated the rest of the time to do the tasks, to follow the plan that's set by your vision, that sets with the absolute place where you personally want your business to go? And as soon as that path is clear, you will absolutely make a change in your future. So yeah, it's really important to get that clear.
Yeah, right. Incredible. It seems so simple when you say it.
Well, it is simple, but you see now, John, this is when I flip this to the accountability piece, right? So this is the piece. So people don't get real clear on their vision. Do you know why? Because they're worried that they might not achieve it. They might not get it. They might have this idea that this is where they want to be in their life and not get it. But do you know what? The old saying is, you're way better to aim for the moon and land in the stars, right? You're way better pitch yourself at something that's higher or further away from you than you thought or you'd expect, because that will lead you to more success than if you keep that sort of mundane level of performance acceptability. The next one is the plan. They don't write it down, because once they write it down, they also are making it real for themselves, that they actually then have to achieve it. Then the piece off the back of that, it becomes the activity. And most of the time they don't want to write it down because they know the level of activity that they need is going to be way higher than what they're doing currently, which kind of means that you're kind of going to have to work a bit harder. So that's what people get scared of. And I just go, what, wouldn't you want to work 10, 20, 30% harder in the allocated time? So I'm not asking you to work outside your allocated times. I'm just saying when you are working, you're working at a really high level.
Make more of your minutes.
Yeah, totally. And that's when I say to people, stop worrying about, what you've done in the last hour. Start thinking about what you did in the last 15 minutes. How much in the last 15 minutes actually changed your business, actually changed what you do. And some of the best decisions or some of the best activities that you can do in your business take no more than 15 minutes at a time. Yes. So why aren't we doing it?
Yeah, I must admit that within my own, once I get on so making calls is a big thing, a big issue for me. I'd rather warm them up a little bit. That's just excuses for not making the calls. Warm them up a bit with content and then comments and then whatever, and then get on the calls. But I actually find that once I start making those calls, long as I make them short, I'll make more. But if I get on a call and get stuck in small talk and then spend 45 minutes to an hour on the call with someone, then I won't make the others. So it is really about making them snappy and keeping that momentum, right?
Yes, but...
Yes, okay, complicated.
No, not that complicated.
I think there is. I suppose the thing is there's no right way or wrong way, right?
Well, there's a better way. And my view of the better way is this. You've got to do the number, right? So you've got to do 10 calls or whatever your number is for the activity that you need to generate the result that you want. But the big thing here is each one of those calls has to evolve or develop the relationship with that particular prospect one step. So every time you make one of those phone calls, it may be a minute, maybe 5 minutes, it might be 20 minutes, right? But every time you make one of those calls, you evolve and develop the relationship another level. And the more you can develop your individual relationships with each of your clients or your prospects or your past clients, that generates more opportunity for you now and in the future. So what I say is, yes, you do, once you get on the roll, you've got to keep going, but also when there's opportunities for you to show you care, you actually are connected with the customer, you understand their position, you're looking out for them, you're helping them on their journey, all of a sudden you become valuable. And as soon as you're valuable to a client, then you'll be a service provider for them for life. So I just really get people to, when they say, oh, Darren, I've made 100 calls. How long did it take? 100 minutes. And it was like a minute a call and I just wanted to rip through them. Well, that's great. But I'd rather you've done 10 and still taken the 100 minutes because you'd have had a much longer and engaging conversation. And those will potentially be more valuable. I mean, there's a wee bit of a trend out there at the moment that I do 100 prospecting calls. There's a bit of a trend for that. But I just go, actually, we're not looking for marbles here. We're actually looking for connection and relationships. And we've got to make sure that we build a better conversation with people so that they actually know we care.
It's really interesting you say that because I had two cold calls from real estate agents this week. They were quite interesting. One was from a big branded agency. Actually, I've got two incidents. I made a call and they made a call. Big branded agency, guy rings me, introduces himself. Hey, are you interested in selling your house if we could get you the best price going around, blah, blah, blah. No, mate, not selling. Oh, really? Not even if we could get you a record price? What price would we need to get you in order to get you to move? Mate, I'm here for the long term, not interested in selling. Oh, okay, then what didn't you like about my script?
No, stop it.
Yes. And here I was thinking we're having a genuine conversation.
There is the difference, right? So I see a lot of behaviors in the industries that are very much like that. It's about this, I want to know, and I'm look, sorry, I'm the customer here, and at the end of the day, I'm only going to engage with people that I know, like, and trust, right? And developing that relationship with that particular advisor or particular salesperson is only going to happen over an evolution of a connection and conversation. So all of a sudden, if there's a no in it, and you turn around and go, "What didn't you like about my script? Because if my script had been better, would that have meant you'd have sold?" I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, Jonathan, one of the things that I know about your area is that people really, have a long term and they want to stay living in that area for a long period of time. But obviously, it comes to a time where the houses in this area are too big for them. Who else in your area do you know that I could talk to? Because we've got a house down the road that we obviously sold, and we've got some buyers that are really interested in trying to get into your very exclusive area. Do you know anybody that I can make contact with? In fact, who I'm talking to is you, but it's caged in such a way that it sounds like I'm being the trusted advisor. It's just...
It was staggering. The second one, this was me reaching out to an agent who'd been running a Facebook ad. It was a 3 or 4 minute video. I watch this stuff all the time because it's my wheelhouse, and it caught my eye because this video had 60,000 views and only 2 likes and no comments. Right, it was sponsored.
Wow.
They were paying for it, right? And I could see it coming. They were going to post, our videos had 60 or 70,000 views. Like, yeah, well, you paid for them and they got you no engagement at all. So anyway, I went to look at this agency to see what other videos they'd been posting, and I started to notice that there was comments in the videos, because I always go to the comments, Darren, because that's where it all goes down. Went to the comments, and in the comments, there was one particular person hammering the reputation of a property manager inside the business consistently, like just the worst of the worst, tearing her apart. And so I thought, this is no good. They could just delete these comments. Like, what are they doing? They're leaving this lady to hang out to dry. So I rang the guy who owns the business and said, hey, I'm not trying to sell you anything. I am in the real estate space. So, I sort of know a little bit about what's going on here. There are ways that you can stop this person from continually attacking. Firstly, Are you aware of it? He goes, yeah, mate, we're aware of it. We've got people in the business. We've got people in the business who are helping us with this. Don't need your help. So if you're going to try and sell me something, you got 10 seconds. And I was like, mate, I'm not, as I said right at the start, I'm not trying to sell you anything.
Yeah. The trusted advisor, mate. There you go.
I just want to help you get rid of, help you manage this difficult viewer. Mate, I haven't got time for you. See you later. I got off the phone. I was a bit shook. Maybe I've got to get a bit more fortified, but I was a bit shook because I'd actually genuinely gone in to help this smaller agency, which is a big business, but in terms of real estate, residential sales is quite small. And this guy was such a jerk.
Yeah.
Such a jerk. There's a reason why he sits in baths and jumps in swimming pools.
This is the piece I want you to have a think about. If you work that out in about 3 minutes, how quickly do you reckon the customer does?
Yeah, I know.
How quickly do you reckon they work that out?
Yeah.
And this is the part where I go, the industries that we're talking about, and obviously real estate's one, but remember, I come from an industry that was regulated or was going through a regulated process, and I can see the way the consumer wants the advisor to go. They want to be seen making the advisor as the trusted professional that's got the customer's best interests and providing advice based off the research, based off understanding the customer's position, and then being able to create a plan for the customer in the future that not only benefits the customer, but actually sets them up for their later life. That's what the regulations and that's what the regulated environment wants. They don't want salespeople trying to get the right script to talk somebody into doing something. It's just so old-fashioned. It's terrible.
It made my spring. I'm sure. I think we're in for a season of many real estate cold calls. It's going to be fascinating to watch. Darren, you've shared some incredible information in this episode of Spring into Action. I'm so happy to have had you on board again. Of course, we aren't strangers. You can catch us speaking about all things business on the Blink podcast, BL-INK, on all good podcast platforms. But I always love to get you into Spring into Action because I don't ask you I don't give you questions ahead of time. I say, I'm just going to pick your brain, give me your best, and you always do. So thank you for being on here, mate. I'll
Welcome, mate.
be sure to tag you in the posts and put your contact details in the comments below, so that anyone watching who wants to get in touch with Darren, we do quite a clever double act for kickstarts for anyone who's planning for February. Not that I want to sell you on anything, but maybe just plant a seed. We'd be happy to talk to you about it. All things sales and social. Gee, that sounds relevant at the moment. How to nurture your community and build your brand sounds relevant at the moment. Stand out from your competition.
Sounds relevant.
At the moment. That's right. Anyway, that's enough of us two being silly. Thanks for joining us on Spring Into Action, and I'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks,
Peace.
everybody. See you, Jonathan. Thanks, mate. See you soon.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.